a very good evening to all of you. It's a pleasant somewhere and not so pleasant somewhere late monsoon evening in India, and we are absolutely delighted to be present at the launch of this wonderful book, Nine Mantras for Happiness and Success by Major General Anand Saxena, published by Readomania. Just to give an idea of what the book contains, I have one question. What do you get when you mix the distilled wisdom of our scriptures, lessons from the success stories of organizations, persons, and products, hidden gems of our ancient art of manifestation, with the life experiences of a soldier scholar who spent more than 32 years in active combat? And that, for you, my friends, is Nine Mantras for Happiness and Success, a book, or rather a go-to guidebook for you to figure out a lot more about you yourself, your purpose of why you're here. Today we have with us an august gathering in terms of a wonderful panel who's going to help us discuss and decipher more about the book. And to welcome the panel and take the discussion forward, I would like to bring in Mohit Gupta, the founder of City Book Leaders. But before that, one quick point on Readomania. Readomania is an independent publishing house based out of Delhi, publishing an eclectic mix of books for the last 6 years, comprising of fiction, non-fiction, children's fiction, and a host of other award-winning books. We bring to you a lot of good content on the platform. With that, I welcome you all again for this wonderful evening and a great discussion that I look forward to. And over to you, Mohit.
Thank you, Dipankar. And as you being a very eclectic young publisher, I've always seen you actually doing some fantastic, fantabulous work when you bring out or when you curate such books out for readers like us. We as an organization, it's our job to take it to as many readers as possible and also read it on our own. So for the first time when you actually mentioned me this book, to me it looked like as if it's been written by a PhD scholar who has been in a college for long. And but when actually you sent me the profile of Major General Anand Saxena and I saw the gentleman belongs to Lucknow, there was an inherent love towards reading the book for sure. And I would like to tell it to everyone. And then we connected over and then we had some common friends in together. And it's so lovely. I would like to mention, I started my career way back almost 16 years ago. And the first book that I read was Zig Ziglar's book, which is a remarkable book in many senses. And I think this book is a refresher after 16 years to me. It has everything into it. And after reading few pages, I actually thought, why should we call Major General Anand Saxena as Anand Saxena? We should actually rename him as the soldier monk. Or we can actually call him the monk in the uniform. Or we can call him Sage who flies the helicopter. The combat.
Boy, that is the reason we need you around us to help us market people.
A lovely mix. Truly. And I think that's the kind of brilliant multi-dimensional mix that he brings on to this book, to this content, because of his personality, because of his deep research into all kind of religious texts, scriptures, his lovely reading habit, I must say. And this book is like a bibliography in itself. I always see the last pages to start a book. And I realized there was no bibliography in this. But when I started reading the book, on every page there's a reference to a lovely book. So much so that my Amazon cart is now slightly loaded, which I'm thinking I'll buy next month because there's a backlog as well. So that's the beauty of this book, I must say. And as the title says, 9 Mantras for Happiness and Success. I think that's the pursuit we all are into. But while you read through the pages, there's one very important message that actually comes hidden because of his background as a combat army personnel. It's a life without fear. It's the pursuit of fearlessness. And I think that's what this book is all about. And these 9 mantras, they combine together into a beautiful, tangible format that takes this book to be a lovely read. For me, it was few hours to finish the book. And you both are a witness to it, how I actually scribbled in the book and made it a workbook from a book, because it has all the elements which will not let you leave the book and keep reading those stories. The book actually starts with a lovely story of the search for gold in America. And that Spanish story is all about that the gold was lying there where people would have never expected, and that's what happens in life. So today, while we are expecting everything gold in this panel to come out, I will not be the person who will be wandering around and not let you meet this gold, but would like to introduce to you this very erudite panel. We are waiting for Sri Rajiv Chandrasekharan ji, though he may come in a while, but as he will join in, I will pause for a moment and reintroduce the panel, him to the entire panel, as well as the people who have taken out time so courteously to be on a weekday here. Like for you, Dipankar, mid of a meeting out there in Banaras. So I think it's a good omen that you're in Banaras. You're sending us the blessings from there, for sure.
Yes.
But before Banaras, let's move to the heaven which is on earth, and none other than we have very scholarly, very representing figure with us. We have Lieutenant General Syed Ata Hasnain. He's a retired army professional. PVSM, UISM, AVSM, SM, VSM, and BAR. And I'm sorry, sir, for my ignorance that for the first time when I actually got the creative done, I thought, okay, these designations, these decorations are slightly lengthy. We will speak about them. But actually, that was a crime that I did. So that was my mistake, not Major General Anand Saxena's mistake. Pardon me for the civilian ignorance that I showed. So in this forum,
maybe I may at this stage I may only explain to you one thing, that the bar at the end, a lot of people in Sevi Street feel that this has been earned at the bar. Okay, so you may, I would like to just correct that it means that you got a decoration the second time.
Oh, fantastic! That's lovely, sir. So that's why I think in our education curriculum as well, and today while we're talking about the World Youth Skilling Day, and we have the Union Minister of Education with us in a while, I think that's an appeal that I would like to make. In our school days, everything was taught to us, or we used to recite them just for the sake of getting marks, but not for these kind of public interactions that we do in our lives when we grow up. And also many at times we leave out that preparation. So I think that's a very fundamental aspect I would like to bring out. And this book definitely has a message. Out of all the 9 mantras, it tells you to start your preparation wherever you are in life. I would like to now formally introduce Lieutenant General Ata Hasnain to everyone. Through most of his 40 years of illustrious career, General Hasnain has served in turbulent environment and hotspots, from Sri Lanka to Siachen Glacier, from the northeast to Jammu and Kashmir, and in UN operations from Mozambique to Rwanda. He has seen it all in crucial appointments. He served 7 tours in J&K, decorated in almost of them, and knows the J&K conflict comprehensively. He commanded the Indian Army's Srinagar-based 15 Corps and is today one of the foremost writers and analysts on J&K, Pakistan, Middle East, and translational extremist violence. He is a much sought-after speaker and writes for major Indian newspapers. His list of achievements and accolades is definitely a lengthy one. I will send the link to everyone. But pardon me here, sir, but I would actually like to mention that on 13 July 2018, the President of India appointed Lieutenant General as the Chancellor of the Central University of Kashmir. And I think the heaven is in safe hands. We're going to have some great education being developed there. 6 by the President of India and 2 by the Army Chief. He superannuated Army in July 2013 after a great, lovely career of 40 years. He's a member of the National Disaster Management Authority as well, sir. We welcome you to this panel, sir, and the discussion on the book. I now move on to our author, Major General Anand Saxena, the monk who actually flies helicopters. So rather than, he will never sell those helicopters, but definitely he's that monk to me. I would like to read it from the book itself, which has been very nicely put by Readomania. Major General Anand Saxena holds triple master's degree to his credit. And I was just wondering why triple, because I think that's where you complete the trilogy. Masters of Science, Masters of Philosophy, and Masters of Management Studies. That too, he has majored in the financial management. So what a combination, sir, where I say there's a Vishnu, there's a Brahma, there's a Shiva. And that's what you have done with your entire research. And despite having a career, a day job, You are always engaged into learning. That's what we can see. He speaks and writes on religion, philosophy, positive psychology, and personal finance. He feels passionately about the lack of institutionalized financial education to the children, or indeed to a common person in India. And that's what his social mission is. His two books, his passion actually resulted in the form of two books, The Musings of a Financially Illiterate Father, that was 2018 Amazon bestseller. His second book, The Millionaire Mechanic, Financial Wisdom in the Run, that was 2019, and 2021 we have this book. 9 Mantras for Happiness, the book that we're going to discuss today, is Anand's third book. And that's where we will start our discussion, and sending a copy to me as well, and reaching out to City Book leaders in our mission to take this kind of comprehensive contemplative knowledge to as many people as possible. Despite being a weekday evening, we see a lot of patrons of City Book leaders have joined. We have Vice Admiral Muralidharan, we have Shri V.M. Bansal from Delhi, yet again educationalist and a former bureaucrat. We have a lot of senior people who have joined us today, including Mr. Sathe from Nagpur. And before Rajiv Chandrasekharan ji joins us, I would like to actually start with my first question to General Hasnain on his take out of these 9 mantras. Which mantra do you think, of course, we'll talk about those 9 mantras in detail in a while, but out of those 9, which one do you think that you can apply today, right now, in every situation, wherever you are?
That's a very interesting question right at the beginning. And I may say, I read the book twice to really glean all the 9 mantras. I was surprised, and firstly, need to compliment Anand Saxena, because rarely have I found a person who's been able to put together so much in such a which are very contextual and one can relate to. Therefore, to really pick out one single mantra is a very, very difficult proposition, but I will still do it. I still think that mantra number 8 for me, don't worry, be happy, is perhaps the most important one for me. And I love the story of the golfer Chaurasia. And I'm a person who always believes in this whole aspect of happiness forever. Now, I may just relate it from my angle. Twice in my career, the most important appointments, I've done all kinds of appointments, but the most important appointments I considered when I commander of the junior command wing at Mau, and the GOC of the 15 Corps at Srinagar. In both of them, this particular mantra is the one which actually came to my mind as the most important aspect of my. The moment I landed back in 15 Corps and Srinagar, I realized that if I do not have happiness around me in my own country, Badami Bagh, where 4,000 troops reside, I would actually be sending out such negative signals into my entire corps. Because, this is a very intense environment. People are tense all the time on the line of control. They are tense with fighting terrorists all over. And therefore, I always wondered, how can I make my people happy? So I gave this task to the one person I felt who could do this. And that was my wife. I gave her the task. I said, please leave your job. And she was working for 20 years. I said, please leave your job. You got to come here and work. And work on the most important job of our life. And that is how to spread happiness in a operational command. Now, General Saxena will relate to that completely, that happiness in an operational command is one of the most difficult things to achieve. The same thing applied to junior command wing in Mau, and he will realize it himself. Many people who are listening, who may be from the forces, will understand it. Junior command wing of Mau is in the Army War College is considered to be a nondescript place where utter unhappiness exists. All the teachers, the directing staff are unhappy. All the students who come there are unhappy. And I took it upon myself. I said, if I'm worth it, then I will ensure that they are all happy and they will go back. Every course will go back happy. I find that in this chapter, if I had read this chapter, I may have done a better job. I may have done a better job of it. because he has focused it. And what's very important about this book is, these kind of mantras are spread out by a lot of people, but not with the kind of storytelling which what John Saxena has been able to do. I call him he's a born storyteller. That is why he's an instructor. He's at the staff college as the head of the training team, one of the most challenging assignments that you can ever get in the Indian Army. So for me, it is this particular one. Don't worry, be happy.
So I will steal a moment.
Everything is good.
Sorry, sir. I will steal a moment here. I think that belongs to Lucknow, Major General Anand. What do you say? The art of storytelling, yeah. I will anyways take it.
The city of Nawabs, yes, that has its charm.
So, General Hasnain, you just mentioned the story of Chaurasia, the golfer. May I buy 2 minutes from you and ask Major General Anand Saxena to actually narrate that powerful story of someone actually getting beaten down by life again and again, going to his knees and yet again rising. And I think that's the essence of the mantra that you just said, sir, that is spread across. And I'll just ask Major General Anand Saxena to recite this story, narrate this story to everyone. And I think that will bring in a lot of happiness for all of us this beautiful evening as well.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mohit. Firstly, thank you for the generous words you spoke about me. Thank you, Dipankar. And many thanks to General Ata Hasnain. He's the epitome of a soldier scholar, one of the most erudite generals we have ever had in the armed forces and army. And yes, this story, and firstly, I would vouch for the fact that General Hasnain said spreading happiness in the command. He commanded the most difficult corps in Indian Army, if I may say. And he did exactly what he is saying on this platform. He spread a lot of happiness. In fact, he's done it throughout his service career for all of us. Thank you so much, sir, for that. Now this story of Chaurasia, we all know he's a golfer par excellence. He's a Padma winner. And, he was born in a family and they were residing in a single room quarter. A single room quarter, and there were 9 siblings. And in that single room, those 9 siblings were brought up by his father, who was working on the greens in that golf course. And he developed a liking for this sport. And as we know, golf is not a very inexpensive sport to pick up. You need your sporting gear, you need a lot of stuff that costs money. But he still had this passion and he wanted to do it. And he kept playing on the sly on the course. Many a times he was chased away by the other golfers who were more elite from the more elite background. He was chased away, but he kept coming back. And his father, he didn't have adequate money because he had to feed 8 more siblings of Chaurasia. But his mother, he went to the extent of even selling whatever she had. She said, "No, you go for it. You go for your passion." And he pursued golf, he turned professional, and it's not a success story where one fine day he woke up and he got success. Success is always about compound interest. So he worked at it. From his childhood, he worked at it. And finally, when he cracked the code, so to say, to become a golfer in whatever scratch player or whatever he turned out to be, and he won many international majors, the entire faith that his parents had put in him, that actually came true. And the best part about the story is that the same place where he was residing in a single room quarter, he bought 2 plush apartments in the same location, and where he ensured that his parents and siblings stayed thereafter. It's a great story to learn from.
So it's a full circle, and in fact, in your book, you all have also given a lovely example of Chinese bamboo, which actually takes 5 years to come out of the soil. And you have mentioned that if it's there in the soil for 5 years, there is a reason. And that's what happens to a lot of people like us and normal people like us, where we struggle. And many times we lose our track. We just don't focus on things that we should do. And I think that's where I would recommend this book to be read by youngsters, professionals, entrepreneurs specifically. Whenever you any page, and you will find a great story out of it. So Lieutenant General Hasnain, I come back to you. after this lovely story, which definitely pumps us, gives us a new adrenaline rush of never losing faith and hope. My second question, which would be based, I guess, on some of your examples where you think that any of those mantras that you could apply, and possibly as a version 2 of the book, Major General Saxena may get a hint of that story to be added. Considering your 40 years, what we can observe and see. And I was reading more about you. I watched some of your videos as well. And I think I would like to hear some power story from you, which is relatable to some of these mantras, which can be an addition and an extra to this book, please.
Thank you for that question. I don't want to be hogging the limelight here, but there's no doubt that I will quote one more of the mantras before I go on to some practical examples of my own life and career. I think the one which I enjoyed reading, since I am a very passionate follower of cricket, is the mantra number 3 on perseverance, and the story of Kambli and Sachin Tendulkar. I remember 1992, the World Cup in Australia. Kambli and Tendulkar were both part of the team at that time, and there were scenes I remember different at the end of the match, where Kambli was seen to be always celebrating in awkward ways, dancing and singing and things like that, while you found a very staid and very steady and a very stable Tendulkar there. Tendulkar's career was building from 89 to 92, 3 years. He had faced some of the fastest bowlers in the world. So had Kambli. Kambli and Tendulkar had started together. They had scored triple centuries. Very well quoted here. This example is a beautiful example, actually, from real life. At the end of it, Kambli faded away. And where did Tendulkar land up? Perseverance, the ability, I would actually put this under focus, under goals, focus, and perseverance. It's an amazing illustration, which is why this book, I find it so relatable, because these are examples which are close to us, close to life. Normally, these books give you examples from all over the world. I'm not interested in something in Berlin or in Paris or in London. I'm interested in down here in India, in our country. And every page you turn, you find 3 examples here. I'm surprised probably General Saxena has been able to put together, he must have made a volume of these stories first before he started putting them down out here. So I think that's an amazing achievement. As to your specific question on something from my career, I come back to my tenure in Mau. People in the army wonder, why do we keep talking about JC Wing? I've been an instructor in Staff College also, where General Saxena has been an instructor and the head of training team. I've been an instructor at the IMA. I've held highest of appointments. I've been the military secretary of the army and things like that. But I still go back to that appointment. There was a particular reason. 5,000 officers went through me. 5,000 officers of the Indian Army went through me. I thought I could change the thinking of these officers. Bring in the aspect of positivity, which is what he talks about, which what General Saxena talks about here on the aspect of visualizations and affirmations, the last mantra. I'm a great fan of The Secret, Rhonda Byron's The Secret. I'm glad that you have actually written a virtual The Secret yourself in this chapter. These affirmations are so important. And therefore, I felt that I could actually change this thinking. When I landed up in JC Wing, I found it a institution which was in the doldrums, absolutely. Not a single DA staff was motivated to teach. The college itself was more interested in checking the weight of an officer rather than teaching him something. And no one was bothered about the happiness and the outcome of the product. The first question I asked there was, how many prizes do you give in this course? They told me 1 prize. I said, for 425 officers, you can only think of 1 prize. So I told them, here's my first direction to you. From tomorrow, this course, you will give 20 prizes. So my staff asked me, sir, 20 prizes? I said, how that I think it double the number. because I can give 425 prizes to 425 officers, because it's my job to make them worthy of receiving them. It's with that spirit that we started our work in the JC wing. And I'm very proud to tell you this. At the end of a year and 9 months, I got a mail yesterday from an officer from the College of Defense Management to tell me, sir, I was the best student of the first course that you conducted. And let me tell you, sir, we all felt what a change had taken place there. So at the end of the day, it is a question of positivity. I come from a school where the motto is Mariat Quisque Palman, which in Latin, from Latin translated to English, means every man deserves a prize. Every man deserves a prize, which means you have to make every man worthy of a prize to make the other wit. I can keep talking till the cows come home on the exploits of JC Wing, but I think this was for me a game changer in my life. This thought of changing the minds of the Indian Army of Sarkar.
Okay, thank you very much. Very inspiring, and I think that's exactly what this book also says. But yes, there are some international examples as well, sir. But they are very, very local, and they are very, very powerful as well. So, like Rocky Balboa, I've seen Rocky Balboa many times. I've read his story many a times, and somehow serendipity, exactly at that moment when I read Rocky Balboa's story in this book, you know, Eye of the Tiger, that song started playing in the back of my, I should say, some part of the cortex or someplace. And I kept on thinking, my goodness, what a powerful story. And there are many at times, even if you have seen the movie, you have come across the story many at times of what happened with Sylvester Stallone. But you still read because there's a context that is flowing around it. And so exactly what you just said about perseverance, I think this is a story that Major General Anand Saxena, you should tell, considering a lot of people do relate to you in your uniform, with a gun in hand, or you're flying a helicopter, but they still really need to know what is that perseverance that you'd like to give as a message from the story of Rocky Balboa that you mentioned in the book.
Yeah, thank you, Mohit. Thank you. But before that, I would just like to take off from where General Hasnain just left about if you're positive, then you will achieve what you want to achieve in life. I've talked about this paradigm called be have. So if you be happy, you are bound to have success. Unfortunately, we think it's the other way around. We want to have things. We want to have the trappings, the penthouse, the Mercedes, the beach villa, the private jets, and the billions in our net worth, and then we'll be happy. It never happens that way. So if you are happy from within, and we've talked about Chaurasia's case, the happiness is around the corner, the success is around the corner. Now, getting back to this story, it's again very inspiring, and I think all of us have seen Rocky, the entire Rocky series. And Stallone, when he's also the script writer of the movie Rocky, the first one. And when he was a struggling actor, and he did all kind of odd jobs, including giving a wash to the lions in the New York Zoo, those kind of jobs also he did. And he was married, and he and his wife were barely making ends meet at that point in time. And he also had a pet, a dog called Butkus. And he was struggling. He had the script ready, and he was going from place to various studios, and no one was interested in this newcomer. He had a funny drawl. His dialogue delivery was not up to the mark as per the Hollywood standard. And to make it worse, he had acted in a soft porn once upon a time. So he was not a really saleable guy. But he was still at it. He kept going, literally door to door for many years. And they came to such an impasse once upon a time that he had no money even to buy the next meal. And what he does, he has to go and sell his dog. He goes out, he sells his dog, he gets $25. And they buy food with that amount of $25. He gives away a part of his, heart. But he had no choice. And then he gets a break. Someone tells him, okay, you sell this story to me, I'll give you whatever amount, and it's a obscenely big amount for someone who's as broke as Sylvester Stallone. But I will not give you a lead role. You just give me the story. And this guy refuses. He says, I see myself playing Rocky Balboa. He refuses. He again is literally on streets, barely making ends meet. And finally, someone says, okay, I will take the script, I'll make you the hero, but it's a much watered down deal. He's offered just about 1/4 of what he got, the original offer. He accepts that. And the day he gets his money, what he does, he goes out on the same streets where he sold his dog. He goes hunting for a person who bought his dog. And after many years, many hours, and maybe days of search, he locates his dog. He sold that dog for $25. He buys it back for some $15,000, which is a sizable percentage of the amount he got for the movie. But he gets his dog back. He works in that movie, and rest, as they say, is history. So the belief, the attitude, the perseverance, the three mantras that are there out of these 9, this one story epitomizes all those 3.
And I think what a remarkable story of compassion and perseverance. I think this entire story actually also says, because I never knew about the dog story. I knew that he was broke, he worked in soft porn and his accent and so many other things. But I never knew this aspect that he actually sold the dog for $25 and bought it back at, say, almost $1,500, I guess, which is a sizable amount in itself. And that shows the love, the compassion that he had for everyone he cared about. And at any point of time, he regretted as well as a guilt. Now, before we move forward, I think my next question to both of you would be on a gentleman, I think, because we have been talking about Rocky Balboa, we talk about Chaurasia, but there's one story in the book that cannot go without mention, considering we have a lot of young people joining, and today's World Youth Skill Day as well. And I was actually saving it for the Honorable Minister to come in, because today is a skills day. But I always consider the sports do give you a lot of passion, a lot of capability to build your skills as well. And I would like to show a quick screen to everyone, because the person or the personality we're going to talk about, I think it's important that we show the picture to everyone so that there's a connect. Okay, so here comes our hero about whom we're going to talk about, Jim Hines. And now to both Lieutenant General Atta Hasnain as well as Major General Anand Saxena, why don't you throw some more light upon his life and the minute seconds, the microseconds that changed his life, and the way the entire story has emerged in the book itself?
I'll do it. I'll make the early part of the intervention. Fortunately for me, the moment I read this story in the book, I had a recall. You see, 1968 Olympics, Mexico Olympics, was the first Olympics which I followed very avidly. I was in school. We were following it very. There was no television in those days. 64 Olympics, I was still too young. Perhaps I only couldn't really fully relate to it. And in this particular Olympics, the thing which stood out completely, and I was already into the mode of following current affairs, strategic affairs. I was all of 15 years old. And incidentally, General Saxena, I had come back from Wellington. My father was CI Army in Staff College, and I had just come from Wellington back to school. And I was, actually passionately driven by what I saw in Wellington in those days. So my faculties were all very strategically inclined. And I was following what was happening in America, and therefore I saw the civil rights movement going on. I read about the assassination of Martin Luther King. I read about the assassination of Robert F. Kennedy. And how does all this relate to Jim Hines? Now, Jim Hines was perhaps one of the greatest athletes of that time. And he decided that besides the fame that he was earning and breaking the 10-second very famous record, the deadline of 10 seconds, and bringing it down to 9.95, the moment he had done it, he realized he was going to be a world figure. He's going to be something who's going to be recognized as the first man to have broken the sub 10, come down to sub 10 seconds. But he remembered one aspect, that is his people. the fact which we are seeing today also, this whole thing of taking the knee, the same thing which we saw at that time, the start of taking the knee was from the 1968 Olympics, when Jim Hines gave the famous black hand salute, and to essentially signify the situation, the racial situation in the United States of America at that time. A man who has achieved everything. He could have forgotten everything. He was going to be a rich man. He was going to be a celebrity in every style, but he didn't. He didn't do that. He was focused on his people. He was still almost a leader of his people. And he symbolized the entire suffering of the African American community in America through the action that he did. And I can relate to it today because I look at it for 2019 and 2020-21. I mean, with what has been happening in America in the last couple of years, and particularly the whole situation of taking the knee. And why forget anything else? 4 days ago, we have seen the worst racial abuse which has happened in the world in Wembley, where 3 unfortunate footballers have been so badly trolled just because of their color, just because of their race. So this is not something that we can easily forget. And Jim Hines will always, therefore, remain a central figure for us as far as this is concerned. Over to you, Anand.
Thank you, sir. I think you've narrated the story so very beautifully. And this year, 1968, is important to me also because I happen to be born in that year. So the story is close to my heart and you've narrated, but I would like to give a different angle to it because this is the very first mantra actually this story talks about, which is your dreams. And, it is like creating castles in the air. You must create castles in the air. If you don't do that, you're shortchanging yourself. The kind of potential we all have within us, you're not really tapping that. But once you build the castles in the air, you must put the pillars, concrete pillars of why. Why do you want to achieve something? Jim Hines was not running a 100-meter race that day. Like Jan Hasnain said, he was running for a cause which was much greater than Jim Hines himself. A cause for which many great black leaders had died. They were assassinated. Maybe he would have still won a gold, but maybe he wouldn't have broken the glass ceiling of 10 seconds. So that cause becomes very important. And I will just digress and come back to the same cause and the kind of sacrifices it can spur us to. Last year in Galwan, we had our 20 martyrs and Colonel Santosh Babu, Mahavir Chakra posthumous, and 19 comrades gave away their lives on the icy heights of Galwan. What were they fighting for? For that piece of land where nothing grows? They were fighting for a cause which was much bigger. For the Naam, Namak and Nishan, for their motherland. They were defending their motherland. And their life was a very small price to pay for that kind of task. So what I'm trying to get out of Jim Hines' story is, if you believe in the cause, and the cause, you put the cause bigger than yourself, you will always achieve it in whatever task you are undertaking.
Very, very well said, Anand. If I may add only the last one line to it. While we always remember Jim Hines, we must not forget Juan Carlos. Juan Carlos was the man who got the bronze medal and also accompanied Jim Hines on the podium and did the black hand salute.
Very true, sir.
And I think that entire period was a very, very remarkable period in terms of there was so much happening across the globe. All the continents had something or the other going on. There was a Vietnam War, Khmer, everything was happening. The 1971 war was approaching after 65. Every country, I guess. And I think this one incident, what you have just mentioned in your book, which is about microseconds and breaking that ceiling, is all about the mindset that we look at things with. We have to challenge the status quo and move ahead. While we'll proceed towards our discussions, today we are being joined by Professor Dwarika Unyal, who is the Vice Chancellor of the RV University, Bangalore. A very remarkable poet himself, who has been an academician, and Dr. Unyal has taught in many places. I'll give his introduction in a while, but we are actually waiting for his lovely poems to actually add to this entire discussion today. in a while to you, Professor Dwarika, but we welcome you here. Glad to have you. So to both of you, any of, so before that, I think I'm missing that part. If I don't do this, that will be completely my mistake in this session. Why don't you quickly tell us, Major General Anand Saxena, about the 9 mantras? I'll make an acronym out of those 9 mantras so that people can remember, and that's how I used to remember everything in my school days, even today. So why don't you tell us about those 9 mantras in the sequence?
Yeah, Mohit. But before I talk about the mantras, if I may take a couple of minutes to talk about the felt need. Why did I write this book? Because I believe very earnestly that end of the day, all of us are seeking happiness, and we want to avoid happiness. That is the basic drive for whatever we want to be, do, or have in life. That is what we want. And unfortunately, we've been sent on this earth by God without any life manual. No, everything comes with a user manual. But we don't have a user manual. So we do things in the manner we deem fit. Sometimes we succeed, sometimes we don't. But I felt we are not doing a very good job of it globally, in general, whatever I have seen in my life so far. Just to quote some statistics to you, there is this so-called wellness and happiness industry. It's an entire ecosystem. This industry is 4.3 trillion US dollar industry. How big is that amount? Indian economy is barely 3 trillion. There are just 3 countries in the world whose economy is more than 3 trillion. And people are spending this kind of money to be happy. I went online recently and I saw a course being run by ISB, Secunderabad, on happiness. And there are 4.5 lakh people who are subscribing to the course. Antidepressant industry, the popping the pills, it's a 14,500 million US dollar industry. 7 lakh people commit suicide every year. That comes to about 40 seconds. Every human being is taking his or her life. We chase money, we chase possessions. The richest country in the world, Luxembourg, 87% divorce rates. Things are amiss. Something is going wrong somewhere. And then I started doing my reading, like you mentioned right in the beginning. And I'm very fond of reading about religions. I've read scriptures of all major religions. And I realized that we have, mistaken the woods for the trees. We have taken the means for the end. Because all these scriptures, all the prophets and sages that appeared on this earth, they had left this message for us that the eternal peace, happiness resides within you. Don't look for it outside. If you are like a sugar cane and someone squeezes you, howsoever gently, you will only get sweet sugar cane juice. But if you are bitter God, howsoever hard I may squeeze you, I'll still get a bitter juice. So we say someone irritates us, some situation irritates us. No one irritates you. No one makes you angry. That anger, that irritation resides within you. And at the drop of a hat with a bit of squeeze by circumstances, by people, the bitterness or the sweetness comes out. So we are going wrong somewhere in this equation. Like I said, be, have. We were going towards have, be. So I read the scriptures, whatever wisdom, and they have a lot of wisdom. And then I read the stories of hundreds of persons, organizations, innovations, and so on, and gleaned certain lessons from there. And I looked at my own life. I've been in army now for 33 years, and I've had a multitude of experiences. Somewhere I succeeded, somewhere I was a resounding failure. So they also taught me many lessons. So these 9 mantras, which I'll now tell, are actually an essence of these 3 kind of inputs that I talked about. And we have to start with the first mantra, which is dream. And we've talked about Jim Hines' story about it. Don't be miserly in your dreams. Dream big. And then put the pillars of why. Why do you want to do that? That's the first mantra. But the dream is very nebulous. You can't aim at a dream. And if you can't aim at something, you can't shoot at it. And therefore, you must convert their dreams into tangible goals. And I've talked about many techniques of goal setting in all the spheres. And I talk towards the end of the program, if I get time, about Wheel of Life. And I will just relate to that at that time. So have your goals, march on the goal. And while you are marching on the goal, that is where you have to persevere. We've talked about Chaurasia's story here. We've talked about Sylvester Stallone. You have to persevere. Once you persevere, the attitude has to be right. It has to be a positive attitude. Positive attitude is not positive thinking. Positive attitude is positive thinking and positive actions. Ability to take a knock, fall down, and get up again. So you must have a positive attitude. We are talking of a long haul, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years. Well, it's a long road and you'll come across bumps. You need to grow. You need to reinvent yourself. You cannot be like dinosaurs who get wiped out with one meteor, you know. And in the process, at times you realize that what you started off with is not suitable for you any longer. Like when we took our career decision, and I can also take the liberty of talking about General Hasnain, we were barely teenagers. We came into a particular profession. Fortunately, the profession we liked and we are still here. But what if after 10 years of that, you realize you are in a wrong profession? Should you continue with the failure? Should you reinforce a failure? And General Atta Hasnain has been in JC Wing. He has taught us never reinforce a failure. So you should be ready to change the path. You should be ready to trudge a new path. That is the next mantra. And be happy, which is the favorite mantra of General Hasnain. Be have paradigm, be happy. Success will follow you. The 8th mantra is about habits. You know, 80% of the things we do in life are out of sheer habits. If you develop good habits, good results will follow. I have again talked about various ways how to set good habits and get rid of bad habits. And the last one, which again General Atta Hasnain alluded to, is about creative visualization and positive affirmation. They are very important. And number of times I have felt in my service career that things were hopeless. And I felt we will not get out of it. It was only our visualization to be out of that situation in one piece. So, and I'm still in one piece. You know, it was because of those visualizations, those affirmations. And they are the 9 mantras, and they are in a particular order. And I think if anyone follows those mantras and has believed in those mantras, like I said, success is around the corner.
So very well narrated these 9, and I was aptly listening to each and every one. And I think they can be in any order. They can be in a flow. It's a way of life, I guess. I think it's a value building exercise that even if at any circumstance you can take a call, you can think, what should I do in this situation? Whether I should be gloomy, whether I should be happy, then possibly you can relate to each and every situation. You have to just ask a question to yourself. And I would now request Professor Dwari to come in and add to his inputs. He has been listening to the entire conversation. And to someone who has been an academician and Professor Dwari, Dr. Unyal, we have 2 other academicians here who now are playing very different roles in their life. One is actually teaching at this point of time to the people in Army, Defense Services, and one as the Chancellor of the Kashmir University. And I bring to you as well. We have other academicians as well, and I must say we have Mr. Bansal here as well. He's the chairman of NDIM, a very renowned educationalist himself. He's also been listening, and I would like to get him onto the call very soon in a while. But prior to that, Dr. Unyal, what do you have to say?
Thank you, Mohit, and very good evening, General Hasnain. Pleasure to meet you again after many, many years. We last met in Mussoorie at Labasna.
Absolutely.
And then Mohit, you know, I had invited him to Flame where I was the dean. But in the last minute, he had to go to work for Government of India with very specific assignment. So we were robbed the opportunity to have him with us at Flame. But I'm very happy to make your acquaintance, General Hasnain. And General Saxena, good evening. Unfortunately, I've not read the book. Mohit told me very late about it, but whatever I've heard so far in the conversation, it is extremely exciting. And somebody like me who deals with youngsters day in, day out for last 25 years, I think every word, every mantra was resonating with me a lot more. So what I will do, you know, rather than a professorial talk here, as Mohit has said, I'm a poet. The dean pays for the poet, the VC pays for the poet. So I've picked up 2-3 lines from my poem, which go very, very beautifully what your mantras are. So, you know, one line, which is your mantra, which says, dream big, and the perseverance part of it. So General Hasnain, I had a cabbie at Dehradun who used to take me from airport to Mussoorie at Lal Bahadur Shastri Academy. And one of his, drives, he asked me, "Sir, what is this academy?" So I said, we train the IAS officers. So suddenly IAS in this country is a big name, big number. He said, "Sir, how does one become an IAS?" So I explained the process, UPSC and all that stuff. And he said, "Sir, आप भी सोच रहे होंगे कि मैं इस एज में कैसे IAS लिखूंगा?" मैंने नहीं, anybody can, write it as long as you fulfill the criteria. बोले, "No, sir, I'm asking for my daughters." I said, "How old are your daughters?" So generals, the daughter at that time, it was 2016, were 7 and 9. And I said, "Shamsher," his name is Shamsher Singh. I said, "Shamsher, isn't it little early for you, for them?" He told me this, General Saxena, General Hasnain, कि सर आज से सोचूंगा नहीं तो सपने कब देखूंगा.
क्या बात है, क्या बात है.
मैं घर आया, I told my wife, "Please do not even say a word." I had to write this, and I wrote this for Shamsher, essentially for his daughters. And now it resonates a lot more about Chaurasia, a lot more about what you're saying about dreams, and which says कि सपनों को उड़ने के लिए हवाई जहाज का टिकट नहीं लगता. सपनों को उड़ने के लिए हवाई जहाज का टिकट नहीं लगता, बस पलकों को उम्मीदों के पंख चाहिए. The poem is called उम्मीदों के पंख. कि सपनों को उड़ने के लिए हवाई जहाज का टिकट नहीं लगता, बस पलकों को उम्मीदों के पंख चाहिए. And you've talked about, beautifully about goals, about perseverance, कि ख्याल पकाने के चूल्हे कम नहीं, ख्याल पकाने के चूल्हे कम नहीं, नई सोच के कोयलों को एक चिंगारी चाहिए. Like what you did at Mahu, Dr. Hasnain, Professor Hasnain, and what you did at many other places, and what General Saxena is now doing at Wellington, which I have highest regard. I have family in Forge, so I have the highest regard for the Forge, what Forge does. And third one is now that both of you are also a bit of into training and a bit of academic, कि सुर्ख कंक्रीट की इमारतों में ज्ञान कसमसाता है. जहां पे इस देश में यूनिवर्सिटी बनाइए, कुछ करिए, सबसे पहले फंड लाइए, बिल्डिंग बनाइए. बिल्डिंग से यूनिवर्सिटी, एकेडमिक इंस्टीट्यूशंस नहीं बनते, लोगों से बनते हैं, विचारों से बनते हैं. सुर्ख कंक्रीट की इमारतों में ज्ञान कसमसाता है, विचारों को पनपने के लिए हरी घास, खुली धूप चाहिए, सपनों को उड़ने के लिए हवाई जहाज का टिकट नहीं लगता, बस पलकों को उम्मीदों के पंख चाहिए. So I think you've been saying beautifully things, and General Saxena, for you, specific dedicated lines for you, because you've narrated so beautifully, कि तुम लिखते हो इस तरह रोज, कि तुम लिखते हो इस तरह रोज की जिंदगी डायरी सी बन गई. तुम लिखते हो इस तरह रोज कि जिंदगी डायरी सी बन गई है, खुली हर पन्ना मानो लम्हा. और फिर उन्हीं में से कुछ फाड़ कर, योर पर्ल्स ऑफ विजडम, उन्हीं में से कुछ फाड़ कर मुझे भेजते हो कि जो लगे कि खत है. तुम लिखते हो इस तरह रोज कि जिंदगी डायरी सी बन गई है, खुली हर पन्ना मानो लम्हा, और फिर उन्हीं में से कुछ फाड़ कर मुझे भेजते हो जो लगे कि खत है, वो खत जिसके लिफाफे को बंद नहीं किया है तुमने, वो खत जिसके लिफाफे को बंद नहीं किया है तुमने. I think I will not take much time. This has been great conversation happening. Mohit, back to you, and back to General Saxena and General Hasnain. It's been a pleasure and honor.
Compliments to you.
Thank you, sir.
Wonderful. And I recall my meeting with you in Mussoorie. Oh,
right, sir. Thank you, sir.
Excellent, Professor Ronial. Thank you so much for that lovely poem and words.
And I have an open invitation. I'm setting up a new liberal arts university called RV University, Rashtriya Vidyalaya University in Bengaluru, which is the part of the RV College of Engineering earlier, which is very famous engineering college. So we're setting up a liberal arts university. So we want to create an adda there. Like I was telling Mohit, once let me the university start in September, I will have the physical adda also and the virtual adda for everybody to come in and congregate and create a platform for all walks of life and these kind of inspirational talks to happen in my place. And chai is on me, adda is on me. Please come and talk.
So as per the part of the design thinking journals, I think it was important to introduce Dr. Dwari to both of you. I would also request Mr. VM Bansal, who's here with us in the session, and as Dr. Dwari said, कि हम सबसे पहले building सोचते हैं, but we don't think about the overall curriculum, the way it has to be done. And I think that's a remarkable thing Mr. Bansal is doing in Delhi. He has served in the government as vice chairman of the DDA, and now running this institute with complete heart and earnesty. I think it's remarkable. I think he's slightly busy somewhere. I would have loved to have him here today to come and speak about his experience also on education, especially being a very important occasion today of the World Youth Skills Day. And glad that Major General Saxena could choose this day for the launch. Anything that you would like to say, Major General Saxena?
Yeah, before I say, I just got a message from Mr. Rajiv Chandrasekhar. He's stuck in a meeting, and the meeting is actually taking pretty long, and he has regretted. He was very keen to join, but I think the meeting is still going on, and he's sent regrets. As also, I would like to convey that from Major Gaurav Arya's side, he again was on the panel, and he's had a medical emergency. In fact, he's bedridden, and he's also regretted. We are missing both these esteemed speakers. And sorry, Mohit, I missed the question in reading the message. Can you please repeat it?
Absolutely fine. I'm saying, sir, while we had some very inspiring poem by Dr. Onyal, and we are coming towards the end of our session as well. If there's any parting thoughts by both of you generals, we'll be happy to have them as our lessons for life, and we'll conclude our session as well.
Let Anand have the last word, but so before that, let me short intervention. I would very strongly recommend to General Saxena that in his next book, he must write about his experiences as an army helicopter pilot. You see, I also believe if someone has been in Siachen Glacier, if someone has flown in Kashmir, Ladakh and these areas, you will realize that flying actually it's a life-changing experience if you're flying every day there. Because you don't know, I hope people realize that most of the helicopters that we hold are designed to fly at 13,000 feet, even 11,000 feet. But we are flying them at 20,000 feet and 21,000 feet. And it's something to see a pilot actually, the skill with which he lands a helicopter in a place like Siachen. This is where perseverance, focus, 9 mantras, so I can read out for a pilot from this experience itself. It is that dangerous. Every one of them applies there. And I'm surprised actually General Saxena didn't use any of those great experiences to put down out here. And I'm sure there's great scope to add all those, particularly your Siachen experience, I'm sure, and all your high altitude flying experiences. You may like to speak something about this here to us today.
Right, sir. Actually, I desisted from bringing any army experiences in the book on purpose. You would appreciate, sir, why, sir. And but yes, so Mohit talked about the parting thoughts and shots. So there are actually two. Mohit started with Zig Ziglar. We both share, our admiration for Zig. And he's propounded a concept called Wheel of Life. And I have modified it a little bit. And I would like to leave the first thought about the Wheel of Life, and then I'll relate it to my flying experience a bit. So the Wheel of Life actually is, just imagine a wheel which has got a hub and there are 6 spokes. So it's a wheel. And you are in the center of the wheel, and what surrounds you is the hub. And this hub is your family. So first look after your family, the people for whom you are responsible. And in the armed forces parlance, the family is not only your parents, your spouse, your children, your siblings. It is the extended family of the organization, your unit, your battalion, for whom you are responsible. So the family should be the first one to strengthen. Then we come to the 6 spokes, and which are again 3 internal and 3 external. The 3 spokes which are internal to you are your physical, mental, and spiritual spokes. And physical, we all understand, you must look after your health and so on and so forth. The mental issues are not only about mental peace and all, it's also about intellectual stretch. Whatever you are doing, are you looking at things differently? Can you do it differently? Can you make a change? Can you do things in a manner which will benefit your command in a major way? And General Hassanain has been talking about these issues in the program so far. And the third one is spiritual. I would like to talk about it a bit. And in the army especially, we have a concept of a puja sthal or a sarv dharm sthal. It is there in all the units, and it consists of the deities or the places of worship for all major religions. And we have once a week something called a sarv dharm sthal parade. It is considered as sacred as a parade. And the entire unit congregates there once a week and prays together. So all of us pray together, and that's how we fight together so well. That spiritual succor, and I'm not talking about religion here, I'm talking about spirituality. So there are the three internal spokes. So you have to first look after the family, the hub, and the three internal spokes, and then go to the three spokes which are extrinsic to you, which are your profession, the social, and the financial life. Now, social, in a way, I've talked about the army, the kind of ecosystem we have. We have prolonged separated tenures from the families. The families are elsewhere, we are elsewhere, but they are being looked after by the organization, the ecosystem that is created. So in whichever organization you are, and if you are in a leadership position, please look after the people who are under your command, their families, wherever they are, they'll do better. The second one was about financial. And I would like to take the liberty of when General Hassanain was a young officer, his basic pay was 750 rupees, sir. Am I right, sir?
Absolutely. That's right. Absolutely.
And when I joined the army in 1988, it was a princely basic pay of 2,300 rupees. So I was quite rich. So what I'm trying to say is that money never holds too much of importance for us in the armed forces, but the quality of life does. And most of the things which provide a good quality of life to you, if you realize, they are all free. We go for exotic vacations to see what is given free to us by God. The sea beaches, the majestic mountains, the national park, they are all free. We have created an economic ecosystem around it. So treat money like we treat SPO2, and we have this knowledge courtesy COVID. Below a particular concentration level, it hurts. So you must have money to live your life in a dignified manner, look after your obligations, have a decent retired life. But beyond that, don't try to add zeros to your bank balance or net worth. It's not worth it. Any oxygen concentration more than 100% will do you no good. And the last spoke is professional. And that is where I have a lot of crib about the way things are being done today. People are following this professional spoke too passionately. It's a very narrow goal. And I invoke my helicopter pilot's experience. When you are hovering at a low height, at a hover height, which is 4-5 feet, you see the ground very clearly, which is below you, very clearly. But you can't look very far because you are very close to the ground. If you fly slightly higher, let's say 4,000 feet, now you get a bird's eye vision. You realize that at 4 feet, what was appearing like a highway, a 8-lane divided highway to you, which was your professional spoke. At 4,000 feet, it's just a spoke. It's a thin spoke in your wheel of life. And if you pursue that too passionately, it will be to the detriment of other spokes and hub of your wheel of life. And the wheel will wobble and you will topple. So that's the message I want to leave for the viewers here, that look at life holistically. It is much bigger than any single narrow goal. Every goal is too narrow. Don't get wedded to any goal. It's never worth it.
Fantastic. And I think that motivates everyone to actually buy this book. Gift it to all the youngsters that you know. So in fact, my next call is with my nephew, just passed out from college, and now he's trying to build an enterprise. He's an entrepreneur. So I'm going to give this book to him for sure. And to every one of you who have joined in, do give this book to youngsters. They can actually learn from these stories, these experiences. We would love to host Major Anand Saxena with this erudite panel yet again, whenever possible, and to take him to as many colleges as possible. We just had a chat with Professor Dwari, Dr. Dwari on this. Actually, he has made me conscious because when I call him Dr. Dwari, I say, okay, whether it's Professor Dwari or it's Dr. Dwari, he has made me conscious. So I should blame you for that.
No, I think what General Saxena has said is extremely important on the balance part of it. I think balancing act is an extremely important act, and a lot of us actually end up, working too hard, or for sometimes wrong reasons as well. But on the profession part, I personally believe that there are three professions. Personally, there are many professions. People can do 1,000 things in life, but the three professions one should not even pick up just because you're capable of it. Pick up because you really, really wanted to do, something which is very, very critical. One is Forge, second is medicine, and third is teaching as a profession. I believe that, you have to pick up these three professions, not because you've studied well or you're capable of things. You do it because for the right reason is something which I personally believe is there. And listening to these two gentlemen, I have 3 lines as a poet I would like to dedicate to both of them, that they look at their lives and look at the experiences. जिंदगी ने पन्नों को सफेद स्याही से लिखा है. जिंदगी ने पन्नों को सफेद स्याही से लिखा है. एक नजर डाली तो कोरे कागज ही दिखे. एक नजर डाली तो कोरे कागज ही दिखे. रूह को पकाया खौलाया. उसकी तपिश की लौ में दास्तानें दिखी. उसकी तपिश की लौ में दास्तानें दिखी. बात स्याही या नजर की नहीं, बात tapish ki hai. So I think these two gentlemen their lives exemplifies us that this is what life is all about. How do you go about building a life for yourself in that entirety is extremely critical. That 4,000 feet bird's eye view is extremely critical. The 4 feet view may be very clear, but not necessarily will give you an entirety in that particular sense. So, baat tapish ki hai.
Excellent, Professor.
Thank you very much. And I think a great thanks to everyone who could tune in, be there, get inspired. And I'm getting messages. People have actually bought the book. We have our patron, very noted, very senior corporate professional, Mr. Nilesh Sathe, also with us. He has just sent a message that he just loved the interaction. His book, we will host him very soon in a while. But to all the people who could join in, to Lieutenant General Ata Hasnain, sir, for all the time that you could devote to us, despite we know that you're surrounded by so many things, but your dedication to this entire discussion is tremendous. Thank you very much, commendable. And to you, Major General Anand Saxena, thank you very, very much. I think this is a friendship for life. और हमें लखनऊ में गोलगप्पे और समोसे तो वैसे भी खाने हैं. We have to do that. Before we move to the adda of Professor Dwari, we will be there in Bangalore very soon.
Incidentally, मैं भी लखनऊ का पैदाइशी हूँ. Even I belong to Lucknow.
Then I think
कारवा बढ़ता जा रहा है.
It's turning out to be लखनऊ का अड्डा now.
सर, और हम लखनऊ हो ना हो, हमारे मिजाज लखनवी ही हैं.
बहुत cool.
On that note, Shabba Khair, have a great night ahead. Many thanks to everyone. It's truly a pleasure to connect. Keep reading. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
All the